Good afternoon, USC. Greetings from the Carrington and Lincolnwood, where we're going to have a little bit of fun today, and I think enjoyable. It's kind of a good news, bad news. The good news is I'm not going to be doing too much talking today. We actually have some people that you may find more interesting and entertaining than I am, but at the same time, you know, the bad news is we don't have the ability for you to interact here. Because I think in a perfect world, if this thing was going to work out well, we would have the ability to kind of phone in with the questions and for you to actually sit down and meet some of these people. There's some of my friends, some of my neighbors. I think you know, this is the community I've been working at, running, and actually live at as well when I'm not out there teaching. And but nevertheless, what we're going to do today is 2 or 3 different things we want to accomplish. Number one, we're going to hopefully gain you some insights into what's on the mind of people who live in the retirement community, how they got here. Number two is how they feel about how things are going. This is not scripted. We're just going to throw out some questions and we'll see how it goes. And then number 3, I think for the purposes of posterity, we are in probably day 5 or day 6. They're kind of running together at this point of the COVID-19 lockdown, where I know in California, the entire state is locked down. Illinois, we have just been chastised by both our mayor and our governor because a lot of the local Illinois people have been going outside yesterday. The weather finally broke a little bit. We are doing our best to maintain social distances. But nevertheless, as we said, this is kind of a family here. We still are living and working together here. And so anyhow, we thought it might be particularly timely just to be able to get some insights into how things are going at a retirement community in the middle of this national crisis or state crisis, or I don't know how we want to characterize it.
How about international? Yeah,
international, worldwide crisis.
There we go.
So we're going to localize that, and we're going to make it relevant from a gerontology point of view, because I think I do not need to state the obvious with the USC students. I know we've talked about it over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 classes, both from when it started in China and in Wuhan and how it kind of spread, and now here it is on our doorstep. We're still talking about it, but it's the one common element is that obviously it has a tendency to target the most vulnerable population here, whether it's in China, whether it's in Italy, whether it's in Spain or the United States. And so, and again, we are taking a number of safeguards at the Carrington, specifically, and I think, you know, don't need to remind you, Josh is always out there to remind you all that yes, I am age 60, kind of in that target age as well. So it's something we all kind of wrestle with here. On the other end, my father is in a retirement community in New Jersey, and so it's kind of interesting, just experiencing this thing, kind of front row seats here, kind of get some stories from him as well. By the way, he has, in his community, when they got so concerned that people were leaving the building, they changed the locks on all the other doors except for the front door. So people would go out.
That's a real lockdown.
That is a real lockdown with garages and everything. So nice to know my father still has a very rich vocabulary of swear words. But apparently he ran out to his car for quote, a minute. And that's how he found out that his keys didn't get back in. So he had to walk all the way around the building at night. He may or may not have been wearing pants. I don't know. At that point, it's just like, all right, Dad, now we know. So again, kind of, and that's just it. We are looking here, and it's nice to see we can all continue to laugh with this thing, and that's really, I think, what we want to document as well. We do exist, I would say, in we kind of refer to it as the Carrington bubble. We have really kind of built this bubble around us. There's just a very, very limited number of interactions we're having with the public. But nevertheless, we still have to respect our boundaries here, the social distances, but we can still get together with moments like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For the record, 3, 6, 8. 8 of us. So I know if Marie is watching, the head of USC, we are practicing our groups consistent with the CDC guidelines. We do not exceed 10 people here. And if we end up with 1 or 2 more coming in, well, I have to take a few volunteers, head for the door. So anyhow, that's us. Do appreciate you guys watching. And I think today it is really, we talk a lot in class about the lessons that we can learn from the residents. And you've heard me talk about that quite a few times. Today I'm sharing that with you. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. What we're going to do is want you to get to know some of these people better first, some of their backgrounds, some of the things that they've done. Prior to coming in, we're not going to necessarily talk about the retirement community just yet, but life history, what they did, how many kids, grandkids, dogs, and then also, and we'll get into it later, some of them are on the resident council, some of them have ad hoc positions, but everyone kind of is involved here at the community. But we're going to wait for that for the later questions. But I think ladies first, and we can start with Pat.
Okay.
And we're talking into the.
My name is Pat O'Donnell. I've been here for close to 2 years. My husband and I were one of the early residents when there were just 13 people here. We ate together and practically slept together. By background, I am a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, and have 6 children of my own and 4 stepchildren.
Wow.
And so we have a very large family to consider during this COVID-19 epidemic. And if I have a worry, it's not as much for myself, who's very hunkered down, but some of the young generation who may not take this as seriously as I do. I'm a clinical nurse specialist by background in trauma and critical care. And I've spent a lot of time in the education role. And for whatever it's worth, I am a world traveler, but I have taught in all 50 states. So I don't know if that adds credibility or makes somebody laugh at my ignorance for spending so much time traveling, but it was quite an education in itself, done after my children were gone from home. But I find myself here in a resident living community by our own choice. We were not coerced by our family, although they wanted us to move closer to where they were. And after my husband experienced an evening where he fell over a dog we were babysitting for one of our children, and he ended up in an emergency room at 11 o'clock on Christmas Eve. And I didn't want to go and get him. I could pick him up at the hospital, but what did I do with him once I got him home? And needing to call a daughter who lived an hour away. We were south of Chicago's downtown area by some distance. And that began to make us think that maybe it would be wise, the older we get, to think in terms of living closer by our children. It also made us view many of the senior residences that were down by us, and I am grateful for all the free meals I ate at all of the different residents. Good, all of them were good, and but we really liked coming north where our family was. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to Cosetta. Why don't you take over?
Okay, I've been a resident almost as long as Pat and her husband. I was one of the few that came in where we all joined and ate together. I did not select the Carrington, my children did.
Huh.
I didn't know anything about it. I grew up in the southern state of Mississippi, came to Chicago in 1955, worked for the city for over almost 40 years, married to a Chicago policeman, had 2 children, and my daughter's in law enforcement, my son is in medical research. I have 1 grandson, no other grandchildren, and he's an engineer for Amtrak, and he has 2 children. They're my great-grands, and they live here in Morton Grove. And that's when my husband passed away in 2004, and I sold the property. My mother had passed away, and my twin sister that I have, living in Dallas, Texas, we had a sister that had polio when she was 4 years old and lived with my mother, so now she's there alone. So my sister's husband had passed away, and she sold her property in Dallas and moved back to Mississippi to be in the home with us because she didn't want to come to Chicago, nor go to Dallas, because the house was convenient for her, second closets, roll-in showers, everything. So everything, and she taught for 37 years. She had a master's degree, even though she had polio, and she was a member of a great sorority, but she lived there alone. Well, we couldn't let her live there alone, so Loretta moved there, but being in a city, like me being in Chicago, there's conveniences when you go in a small town with 36,000 people, with bakeries are not available and so forth. She complained every day, you gotta retire and come down here and be with me. So I said, okay, but I'm not gonna mess up my retirement. I'm gonna make sure that I get the limit and you stay there, and anything you need in that house, let me know when I'm working. I'll see that you get it. So I moved to Mississippi after my retirement to be with her. Then my sister that we moved down there with decided to die and leave us both. She had gotten a job out at the junior college. She didn't want to go back to Dallas. And she said, please don't leave me. And my children finally said, now you've been down there long enough. It's time to come home. I said, not with you guys. I'm not living in anybody's house. And I don't want to buy property and live in it alone. She said, okay, I'll find you somewhere to stay, my daughter. So she found this place. She had been across the street. She looked over and there was construction over here, nothing but a trailer. No building. And she came over here. And because her son lived here in Morton Grove, she said, oh yeah, that would be convenient. So she called me, she said, get on a plane, Mom, I want you to come up and talk to these people. So I did, and met Carol, in the trailer, and she showed me the blueprints and so forth. And I said, oh, okay. I said, okay, this sounds good. It's close to you, my grandson. I'll think about this. So anyway, they did all the touring. They did all the negotiations. They bought all of my furniture, furnished my apartment. Did every
deal.
They did all of that. Drove to Mississippi and drove me back here to the Carrington when they
Put them on the payroll.
and moved me into the Carrington. I said, this is bright and light and bright. I think I can live here. My daughter told her husband, I'm going to stay here for 3 days, so my mama going to run away. So he had his dog, so he put him in the car and drove home and left her here with me to make sure that I would adjust. And I said, but I have no problem adjusting. You know what I mean? When I get tired of looking at all of the white people around, I go in my apartment and close the door. Because I worked for the city for almost 40 years, and it was a diverse community. So, you know, I worked around you guys for almost 40 years. So, and I went home every night. So I would walk around this building, and I would go into my apartment and leave you there by yourselves and enjoy myself and watch TV like I'm doing now. I'm enjoying myself. I like it.
That's awesome. Tough act to follow.
What's this ladies first stuff
You
from
know, I
the
try to.
18th century? Okay.
We-
Chris Kodak? Sure.
Sure.
I don't mind. Okay.
Ladies' choice.
There we go. How old are you?
Sorry, I know you cannot.
He's a mere child, he's only 60.
He just, I don't think he's had that 60th birthday yet. It's almost there.
No, that's what I did down at Peru.
Oh, that's right. You
Yeah.
celebrated the
Yeah.
60th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, he's an animal.
I am Chris, and I've been here less than a year. It'll be a year in May. And when I came here, I was a fairly recent widow. My wife had died in August of 2018. And to keep busy, I thought, well, I've got to downsize, start getting rid of stuff. She left me with the job of doing that, which, like most people, that's not a task you put off. And instead, it kept me extremely busy, just trying to prepare for an estate sale and thinking about what I wanted to do. I had driven past the Carrington multiple times because they actually only moved about 3 miles from here. And so it was always intriguing, what is that? What are they building over there? And then I saw the names up on the sign. So I started looking into it, and so while I was preparing for an estate sale, I was coming over here and meeting with people. The other piece was I wanted to be close to my community. I didn't want to live in, you know, a 3-story home, up and down stairs and all that. When you're alone, your life changes. It's just totally different. I won't get into the whole issue of bereavement and how that works in here, but it's all part of it. The other piece is my sister's in a nursing home, and it's actually only about 1.5 miles from here. And so I wanted to be close to her, so this was ideal. I looked nowhere else. I would come over here and just annoy Stacy and other staff, oh, can we take one more look? And they would let us. They were wonderful. Listening to my story, and that I can't make up my mind right now, I can't commit yet because I got to get the estate sale over with. So they were just very nice about it, and it was the only place I looked at. I didn't even try to have a meal here.
Oh.
I'm a good cook. So I wasn't worried about meals. That was a bonus. Although I haven't done much cooking since coming here. We have a nice kitchen. All the apartments are set up with a nice kitchen. It's like overwhelming if they also feed you, but it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good, and something that I liked about the place. So I was pretty sold on it fairly quickly. My background, I am a semi-retired social worker. I have a master's degree in social work. I still work part-time, and thankfully most of it is remote, so I can work right from my apartment. They haven't noticed that I'm old. I think they hired me because I have a long experience in social work and child welfare, and I know how to be honoring when I need to be. I was an administrator, frontline, and I know how to play with bureaucracy. So that's why they have me. So it was, oh, you're such a nice guy, Chris. No, no. My wife was a nice person. She was also a social worker. But anyway, so I think I've answered these questions. We had no children. I'm very close to my wife's family, but they're mostly in Iowa, some nieces here, and I'm close to them. But I think that's about it.
Hi, I'm Mary Jo. There are two things about me that make it a little bit of an odd fit here. One of them is that my husband and I are both vegans, and we're very committed to that. Another thing is that I'm only 67. Jim is not that far behind. I worked for AT&T, retired from them in 2014 when I was only 62 because it came up with a financial offer that I couldn't resist, so I have been retired since I've been 62. We were living in a smaller town, a resort town on Lake Michigan, where we had moved from the Chicago area to retire. But over time, a long drive into the city to visit the kids, 2 of 3 of whom live in Chicago, became just a pain in the ass. And kids don't come to you, which we found out the hard way. So we began to want to move back, didn't want to own a home again, didn't necessarily want to be strangers in a condominium, liked the idea of community, liked the concept of it. So we started looking at retirement communities, looked at several. Pretty soon decided to not do a buy-in thing, liked the rental-only option. So we looked at different places, 4 or 5 different places. Walking into the Carrington, we saw 2 friends of ours who had owned a weekend place where we used to live on the shores of Lake Michigan. They were standing in the lobby. So right away it felt, kind of woo-woo. Maybe this is the place to be. But we also just loved the feel of it, the openness, the lights, the wide hallways. We didn't try to eat here first, although they did promise that if we moved here, they would work with us for our dietary preferences, and they have. And we've had some wonderful, wonderful meals. My husband has 3 kids. I don't have any of my own. We have 4 cats in our 4-bedroom apartment. We picked the largest one because we're used to the space. It has a balcony, and we needed the space for our fur babies, as we call them. I have an advanced degree in journalism. I've been a technical writer. I've also managed as a product manager, very large and expensive projects, as a product manager for AT&T before I retired. So I guess that's pretty much me. Your turn, Trudy.
Well, thank you. My name is Trudy, and I've been here almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in October. I come from the city of Chicago. I was raised in Chicago, but I've lived in a couple of different places. And I worked at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, which is one of the biggest hospitals in the city, in the clinical chemistry lab for 34 years. And when it was coming time to retire, I had a partner for 40 years, and we had decided, and she was older than me, 5 years older, so she retired first. And when we decided we were going to retire, we put in a plan to move to northern Wisconsin, because there was some land that we had up there. It was in the woods, and it was on a lake, and it was in a small town, and we just thought that would be a great place to live. And it was a kind of a family property. She had a niece that had property next door, and her parents had lived up there and retired up there. So we put this plan in place when it was, she had retired and I was getting ready to retire, that we're gonna build a house. So that was a huge project, and by the time we got it built in 2005, my partner had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We didn't want to change our plans, so we just did it and we moved up there. Turned out to be a very good thing to do because her father happened to have been the first administrator of the nursing home in town. Town was only about, it was under 2,000 people. But he was the first administrator and he had a plan. He was a man with a plan, and his desire was to increase the campus, to not just have a nursing home. He wanted assisted living, he wanted daycare, he wanted independent living apartments. He didn't live to see this come to realization, but it did in time for his wife to occupy all of them, and certainly totally developed to have his daughter, my partner, take advantage of all of that. And she did. She started in daycare. I devised a great plan for daycare. I'm gonna pass it on, because you can tell people about this. She wasn't happy about going to daycare, but she was very amenable to trying something if I told her. And I made a plan with the person that ran the daycare center, and I said, listen, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give you $5, 5 singles, and she's gonna come, and when it's time for me to pick her up and she's gonna go home, I want you to go to her and I want you to say to her, B, you did such a good job helping me today, and I really thank you, and so I'm gonna give you this because you helped me. And so she took the $1, and I picked her up the first day. I said, well, how'd it go? And she said, look at this, I got $1. I said, well, you think you'll go back? Yes, there's a lot of people there that need my help.
Always the way. How good.
And she went from daycare to finally I put her in assisted living, and she stayed in assisted living for a long time, 2 years or 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And then it was time for her to move to the nursing home, which didn't make her happy on the day we moved to the nursing home because it was very cold. It was January, and she was really mad. She had to ride the bus in that cold weather. But once she was in there, she was fine. And because there were staff still that remembered her father, and so they treated her really well, but she was a really good patient. So anyway, that set me up for what am I gonna do now? So my job became volunteering at everything over there and spending a lot of time. But I was also becoming increasingly worried about how I was going to spend the rest of my life, because we were pretty isolated, you know. And my family was here, and they were expanding. I have one brother and a lovely sister-in-law. They have 2 adult children who are just starting to populate their families. So about 3 years ago, it was almost 3 years ago, my partner passed away. And I had to think about what kind of decision I was going to make and whether or not I felt I deserved to have a secondary life or a second life. It took me a long time. I spent 2 years trying to make the decision, trying to make a go of it there. And I had many friends, but it still wasn't the same. I was far away from my family. I needed to find something different. So I took it as a research project. And I started getting online and looking at all the different places that were available. Now, I had a place to stay in Chicago. I had an apartment in the basement of my brother's house. Didn't have a kitchen, but I had a bedroom, I had a laundry room, I had a full bath, I had a TV, a huge TV. And when I approached them with this idea, my brother, of course, thought I was nuts. Why would you want to go and spend your money whenever you could stay here for free? I said, because I need some space of my own, and I need to develop a life of my own other than this. My sister-in-law, maybe because she's a woman, she was on board totally with this. So I devised a plan. And can you indulge me for about 6 minutes? I'm going to tell you what this is, because I wrote this. Because one of the great things we have here are all kinds of classes. And I love the writing class, and I'm in the writing class, taught by Mary Jo's husband. And he challenges us to write about different things about our life. And this is what I wrote, and it's going to explain absolutely everything that happened. It's called Change Your Life. As she lay on the grass, her arms across her brow, her mind wandered. Her thoughts zigzagged from one tentative thought to the next. She seemed to be at crossroads lately, and today was no exception. She was 74. Old in years is what most people thought. She, however, did not see herself as old. It was not a word she would use to describe herself. Instead of drifting into depressed thinking, she felt comfortable within herself. Her health was good, her friends were many, and she had a full life. Yes, her knees ached, and no vacation travel was undertaken without a stick for walking. She thought it made her look distinguished, and it also got you on airplanes first. Yes, age had its advantages, and she was starting to believe it. Her big decision that spring was to make a final plan to leave her home on the lake and in the woods, with its daily parade of deer and birds at the feeders, and its ever-changing surrounding nature. Her life partner of 40 years had died 2 years ago, and the feeling of loneliness and inability to meet new people in a small town was beginning to take a toll on her feelings of stagnation. She missed being closer to her family in Chicago. She had great nieces and a nephew in the city and was missing out on watching them grow and raise their families so many miles away. The computer became her ally in her quest to change her life. There were websites of possibilities and housing sites abundant. They all talked about how their place offered the very best lifestyle for seniors, offering multiple activities and amenities anyone would love to have right there in a place to call home. Finding the right place and changing where to live seemed to be the start of building a second life. Enlisting her brother and sister-in-law to go along to check on the senior options, she was not surprised by her brother, who had a small apartment for her in his basement where she could live rent-free. And he had a hard time understanding. He needed convincing to understand her desire for her own space in a community, a place where opportunities to get involved in whatever struck her interest, a place where she could meet new and interesting people and build friendships. The 6-hour drive down to the city where she lived and worked most of her life, she wouldn't be traveling alone. Her company would be her 2 dogs she called boys, who never complained about a car ride or her singing loudly to the satellite radio in full voice. After seeing the first 4 places, there was only one place she could see herself living in. It happened to be the first place that she had visited, the Carrington. It was brand new, no one's dirt, an apartment on the first floor looking out onto a large front yard with 3 pine trees to remind her of home. It was only 10 minutes from her family. Place of her own with family near. It was perfect. This would be the first time she would be living alone in over 40 years. A test to see if she could adjust, to make new friends, be active. Keeping the lake house to be used for long weekends and longer stays during the summer months would still be active with visits from friends and family to enjoy relaxing in the quiet surroundings of nature. The move went well, just filling the SUV with boxes of clothes and dog paraphernalia. No need to move rental furniture. Rental furniture had been arranged. She thought this would be a 6-month trial to see if the plan was a good fit. Settling in October, she decided to allow the place to present itself to her each day in any activity she attended or resident she encountered. Leaving herself open to each day allowed her to let change walk into her life and present its gifts to enjoy accepting or dismissing. It was her choice. After 6 months, she realized she had found her place. Rental furniture was sent back, and slowly new pieces arrived, and interior decorating became her big task. The boys settled in and were enjoying the apartment and the dog park and meeting all the residents. On January 1st, as she walked out with the boys, the day was clear. The sky was blue. It had snowed overnight as the boys made paw prints in the snow. The night before had been New Year's Eve. She had turned 75 as the entire community wished her happy birthday and celebrated the end of 2019 and the excitement of the arrival of 2020. She was moved and held in the warmth of what had become a community of new friends. Yes, it takes courage to make a change. It affects you in big and subtle ways. It opens your heart and your mind to new experiences, and it allows you to be surrounded and wrapped in the feeling of being home.
Very good.
Perfect.
Very nice, very nice.
And it's absolutely true. Every day, and we're under trying circumstances right now, but every day, if you look for the happy and you choose it, you can find it.
We share this happiness that that ambulance is going without anyone on it.
Oh,
Okay, good.
Everything's good upstairs.
they came to assist
They came.
and remove themselves. That's the kind we like.
Exactly, that's,
Lift and assist.
Maybe they came to just lift and
Lift and
assist,
assist. Yeah.
which is a new thing that Mary Ann taught us.
yes, yes. For now, that's our story and we'll stick with it.
Okay.
But
I call it the
either-
non-emergency number.
Either way, right, but this one, this is very, very good news.
That's good.
Yep,
That's good.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna drink to that.
You get used,
Okay.
you get
Anyone
used
else?
to seeing the ambulances arrive. Yeah. And it's
Not
always,
too many recently.
yeah, but we've been really good lately. We
Right.
haven't had very many.
Truly.
We look out on the assisted living side,
Mhm.
so
You see more.
we see more
Right.
proportionately, but, I think that's to be expected with the older age group there.
We need to do better, because I think they had 29 in one day across the street, that was the record.
29
believe
in
it.
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
day? I don't think we've done
29.
three
That's
in
hard
one
to
day.
see.
We never did anything that much.
No.
We can't let them beat us.
Is this a competition?
I know, yeah, we concede on
This is
that
a
one.
competition we don't want to enter.
Exactly.
We don't want to
Exactly.
participate.
No way.
Come on, Mary Ann, you're the
Okay. Good afternoon and hello to the, class. My name is Mary Ann Dolan, and moved into the Carrington, my husband and I, about a year and a half ago. We have 4 children, 3 in the area, 1 in the DC area, 8 grandchildren. Our children, well, let me just start by in addition to saying that my husband and I lived in a condo in the area, and my children and myself noticed that their father, my husband, was beginning to show signs of dementia. And before I even go any further than that, other than our children, we really didn't know anybody in the area because we had lived in so many different places in the United States and abroad. So our children were the only ones that we interacted with. And when they noticed that their father was becoming more difficult to live with and more demanding, they were concerned about me because I was isolated. In a condo or an apartment house, you're very isolated. You don't have the community rooms, you don't have activities, etc. So without us knowing about it, they decided to start looking for a place for us. And our daughter Elizabeth, number 3, is, I've called her the family gatekeeper. She took it upon herself to look at a variety of facilities,
And when she saw the Carrington, she told her siblings about it, and they were on board. They thought it would be perfect, and then they came to visit us. And when all three of them come to visit, you know that there's something up,
Something afoot.
something, right. And so they said that they would like us to look at a place that they had thought we might be interested in, and so we're all going for a ride, and we're going to Lincolnwood, and we're going to look at the Carrington. I was very excited about it, and my husband not so. We came over, and the minute I stepped in, I saw the bright colors, the big windows, the newness of it. I just immediately fell in love with it, as did our children. And we had picked out an apartment on the 3rd floor because I wanted a balcony. I just have to have outdoor space so I can putz in gardening. And really wanted to live on the 4th floor, but there were no, it seemed to be there were no apartments with a roof overhead, and I didn't like the complete openness of no roof. So we signed the papers, and we stepped outside, and our oldest daughter, Kathy, who does not take no for anything, she came dashing back into Kathy and said, I spotted a 4th floor apartment with a roof. Kathy said, I don't think they exist. Kathy said, yes, they do.
With a balcony roof.
With a balcony roof, thank you. Step outside, and I'll show you. So, yep, there it was. Went upstairs, looked at it, came back down, erased everything we had, crossed out, filled in, re-signed, and so that's how we ended up in the Carrington on the 4th floor with a balcony with a roof over the balcony. My background is nursing. Unlike Pat, I didn't have a direct line occupation in nursing. I worked in all kinds of different areas of nursing. And I retired when we moved. Well, it came to a point where we were moving so often and I had 3 children, it wasn't possible for me to continue working. So I don't know at what point I retired. We came back to Chicago after having retired to Tucson. I wanted to be closer to our kids, and I don't know who said it, but the children don't come.
Mary Jo.
Yeah.
Right, and they don't come, you come to them.
My husband thought they'd all flock down to Tucson and use our swimming pool. Well, they each came once. So that prompted us to come back to the Midwest, which I was very, very happy about. And a retirement community out in the desert was not my cup of tea. My husband has gotten worse. And I just thank God that we are living here. He still doesn't like it. I can step out into the hall. I have made so many friends, and I can see them walking up and down the hall. Chris, we usually meet at the elevator. Pat, activities, she's there saying, you gotta help. And Mary Jo, MJ, I just loved her from the moment I saw her. Cosetta, with this happy, jolly, laughing face. I mean, so what if she's black and I'm white?
I love it. I used to be a Negro.
Did you get that, guys? Did you get that?
Oh, God.
What did I used to be? A honky?
And sometimes colored.
Oh, God.
Oh, amen to that, sister.
I'm
And
sure these
Trudy, the first time I met Trudy was, we both used the same garage, and she apparently had been out with her dogs,
and she was coming into the building and I was going out into the garage, and we both hit the door at the same time, and the dogs came charging in, and I will not say to you all what I said, but it was a lingo of swear words.
But they're small dogs.
Yeah, and so she didn't really look at me, she just kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So now, in trying to adjust to our life, what's really difficult is not being able to go to the dining room, but that's okay. We know things are going to eventually change, and I think we just have such a great support system here that when we, meet somebody in the hall, 6 feet apart, we still we're happy to see each other. That's probably the bottom line. And we are great support systems for each
Kind of
other.
like each other.
We kind of like each other.
Well, wait a minute, we got bones to pick with everybody, but you know what?
You forget.
It's not that important.
No, you really do.
have bones to pick.
Oh,
Everybody's.
You really do
Oh,
figure out
God.
what's important in life, and grudges, doesn't fit anymore.
Doesn't fit.
No,
Doesn't fit.
not at all, not at all.
Okay, Phil, the best for last.
Oh, my gosh.
We know.
Well, just so that you all have the idea here, not counting Jim because he's moderating, it's just Chris and I and 4 or 5 women.
Careful.
Aren't you
Your
lucky?
age shows
3 to 5,
sometimes.
you're lucky that.
What do you want to be
ratio.
called? We're strictly outnumbered.
This is the one who used the word submissive instead of responsive.
But this is an aside, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but one thing nice about the Carrington, there are a large amount of men and single men that live here also. So, you always think about retirement communities. Oh my God, it's all gonna be a bunch of crabby women and this and, they're all gonna be, it's not that way here. I mean, it's a very nice mix of men and they're all interesting. Everybody's interesting because they come from different backgrounds, and once you find out, we might have a glut of lawyers, but
Yes, we
that's
do have
okay.
a lot of lawyers.
And
retired police
and retired policemen, we have quite a few of them.
You know who makes the money in this world.
But we also have the social worker, and we have Phil, who's gonna tell you about his outstanding career, and everybody's interesting.
Yeah.
Right, that's great.
And I apologize for
There you go,
Is it
Phil.
okay to go now?
Go now.
Just a minute.
I was raised on the south side of Chicago, so I'm a Chicago boy. And as a matter of fact, I've only been out of the state living when I was in the service. Otherwise, I came right back here.
Oh, my God.
And I'm in the healthcare field. Most of it was diagnostic work. I was a lab tech. I worked in nuclear medicine. I worked in pulmonary function. I became a respiratory therapist, and that's what they're looking for today. Matter of fact,
You're
someone
needed,
said,
dear.
someone said, they were asking for us to come out of retirement. Well, that's not going to happen with me. I will be 80 years old this year, and so that's long gone. That was the biggest job when I did patient care. I did cardiopulmonary, and I worked with the adults a lot. But near the end of my career, I specialized in neonatal and pediatrics. Which when I started in there, I was a little afraid to work with the little bodies. But then when I got going, I was saying, why didn't I ever do this before? It was great to work with the kids. That much was for sure. I am the other half of Pat O'Donnell.
I can't help it, you kept your maiden name.
This is my time.
Yes, dear.
Oh, but if Phil would tell his maiden name, you might understand why Pat kept her.
Anyway, her 4 stepchildren children are my biological children. Her biological children are my 6 stepchildren. So that makes 10 in total. We actually have been married it'll be 41 years this year that we're married. Our first marriages, hers was a little longer than mine. We both lost our spouses. And we worked at the same hospital, so that's how we got hooked up in that way. Let's see. Oh, anyway, so I'm here. So we actually, she told you how we started to look for senior living, and we actually just mentioned it, and my daughter, who is the go-getter, says, I found a place for you.
Yeah. It was like 24 hours
She says,
after
meet me at
the
such
word.
and such a time at here and here, and we came here, and there was a trailer out there, they were building, there was all kinds of things going on. But when we sat down and we looked at what was the potential of where we were at, we knew that this was the place for us. We had looked at other places, but most of them were on the south side. This is the first one we saw up north, and we immediately liked it to both of us. But my wife, who is the organizer, we got plans of the apartment that we were looking at, and before we moved in, she had a diagram what was going where and
What
how
piece of furniture was going where.
You know, and she says, well, this is too small for me to work, so I had to blow it up for her, and then so she did actually put our apartment together that way. I don't think we're sorry we ever came up here. We don't. We see the kids a little bit more than we did on the south side. Of course, we picked an apartment on the first floor with a balcony. I guess it's a patio, not a balcony when it's on the first floor. That's right. And so it's kind of nice, and she's got her little garden there in the summertime, which I have to take care of and water. And well, the decoration, and I think anybody sitting here at this table can say she really decorates a lot. So, and does a very lovely job of it, by the way. So, I won't hold up too much time because someone else took up most of the time.
Sorry, it was my introduction, right?
Oh, thank you.
No,
Did you get the D?
I got it, he looked right at me.
So Trudy is okay. Everyone likes Trudy here, and she keeps us going. She keeps us alive.
Keeps you busy.
And keeps us busy. So
Keep everybody busy.
I'm not. Go ahead.
No, when you're finished, I just want to add.
I'm finished.
You're finished, okay. I just wanted to add one other thing that I think I'm probably the only one in this building that this has happened to. I was born and raised in Mitchell, South Dakota, and my mother had a nursing home, and she was widowed at a very young age, and my mom and my brother and I all lived in the nursing home.
Oh,
Oh, that's
interesting.
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 But you've always liked old people.
Yeah, I have. As a matter of fact, it was a very small place. We had what my brother and I called 12 grandmas, and wedding day, so in those days you got dressed at home. I went to each of their rooms and let them ooh and ah and gave kisses and hugs.
How wonderful.
It was
wonderful.
It was very special.
Okay, so at this rate, we will be here until next week
I
answering
know,
these
Chuck, won't
questions.
they get like a bottle or two of wine, or would that?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Good. Wine.
Yeah, I think we may have to. No, this is good. This is good. Next couple questions will be a little bit more focused. And as I said, there is the people who are interested in marketing, and we kind of briefly covered on that, but just for the sake of for the continuity, and we'll just start with Bill, and we'll just work our way right back. Do you remember how many communities you've actually seriously toured before selecting, and then what, was there one or two things that really said, this is where I want to be? So I know some of your answers, you've covered that, but.
I can think, and I might be pushing it, maybe about 5. Most of them, all 4 of them were on the south side. This was the first one we toured up here. I don't think we ever looked at another
No,
one.
just over at Lincoln Place.
Oh, Lincoln Place I knew about, yeah. My youngest son's father-in-law was there. So that's how, when we got over there to see him with my grandson.
Yeah, I'm assuming, because you came over here, there wasn't a building, it was the newness, or the potential, or.
Well, yeah, it was.
Floor plans.
The floor plans, mostly, and and the apartment, the models were what we looked
Beautifully
at.
done.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. That was it. The area, I never knew that this was the old Bell and Howell area. I knew about Bell and Howell, but I never knew that this was actually the property that it was on until I was in here for a while, and then I found out about that. I think that it was, each place offered a similar type of living, and that's one of the things we looked at. We knew we were getting older. We knew that things were going south, and so we had to look what was going to happen for us, and that was one of the things that I think made us decide that we wanted to do this type of living.
The thing that I hope people pick up on is the fact of the camaraderie of the residents here. I think that I saw a lot of clickiness when we would go to other communities. And one of the things when I always try and poke my head in if anybody is in the discovery room, because from my point of view, hearing from the residents themselves is a much more important thing. I know the financial and all of that, everybody's curious about that. But really, what's the most important thing is what kind of a community. Is it a very integrated community? And yes, the activities are important because you want to be able to do the kind of things you want. For my case, people are the only important thing for me. So seeing that people are happy and not feeling lonely is probably the most important thing. And I think from the very beginning, when there were just the 13 of us, that we all were together, that we all changed tables all the time. Every meal we were sitting with somebody else. That got started. And pretty much until there's a few groups that sit together now. But for most practical purposes, we integrate amongst the whole community. And that is really important to me.
Amen.
Casetta's was a family affair, I recall.
Mine definitely was a family affair. I did not visit any places. My daughter was the culprit. She went to maybe about 10, and then she came here and she liked it and sent for me, and I liked it. So, and then I moved. They brought me here, and Pat saw me the first day and said, "Come sit here." And I said, "Okay," and we've been talking and liking each other ever since.
How many places, Chris?
Well, I didn't look at any, but I'm going to tell you a story. It is always fun to have guests come here. So I had family come in, and we would reserve a table, and staff always just treat me like a king. And I swear, I tell them this: are you showing off? They've been really nice, helping. They're just being incredibly responsive. So I felt good. I'm showing off my new home. But anyway, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were part of that group that came. And from here, they were also looking. They currently live in Phoenix, in a gated community, but it's time to move on to something similar to this. So they left here, and they liked it. They thought I made a good choice. But anyway, they stopped in Iowa, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, you know, all kinds of places.
It was the senior
And-
home tour.
Yeah, and they finally selected one, as my sister-in-law said, if her husband would get off his ass and make a decision. But that takes time. Some people just can't do that. She'll end up packing anyway. But she won't do it. But anyway, she always repeats to me that the Carrington was the best. They saw multiple communities. Some were buy-ins, you know, which they can afford, but they can afford that. And some were rentals and that, all similar rules in some ways, and all had different types of layouts. And I would look at all of them as they were around the country, and some of them I thought were just spectacular. And Nancy said, no, the Carrington was the best. And I don't think she was patronizing me or anything. She said, that was just nice. And it was, because it's so hotel-like.
And it's so
Yeah.
open and bright, and
There were a lot of
ceilings
good things.
high, the hallways
I
are
know.
wide. You got-
Wide hallways.
You
really notice that when you tour other facilities, the difference in the hallways.
and the narrow hallways.
Everybody brags
And the
about
color.
the downtown edifice.
No way.
We took the play there, and the first thing I said was, boy, they don't have many elevators, and the second thing I said was, God, these halls are skinny and dark.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Kind
they
of
are.
hard to be socially distant in those halls.
Right.
You can't be, well, you can be front to back,
Yeah, you gotta.
you have to talk to somebody this way,
And they weren't very happy.
and they didn't seem happy,
The
no.
residents we talked to. Anyway, I'm sure there are happy people there.
2 buy-ins and another rental.
All right. Good.
Mhm. Well, you know, I looked at 4, I think, 2 of which, when I came out with my sister-in-law, we looked at each other and I said, if I decide to go there, give me a drug. Because there's no way I could live in this place. And, I kept, this is really the only place. I mean, this place has these, I wrote it down whenever I saw the question. Style, I was moving right into a clean apartment, nobody else's dirt. I didn't have to worry that it was, you know, somebody had been a rental before. So I'm lucky enough for that. And we still got available apartments, that
Yep.
somebody could have that same thing. I love the fact that I had, that you had a dog park. I mean, that was like, who ever heard of having a dog park? And I saw it on the
think
plan.
animals are really
And I
very
said, oh,
exciting
look
for
at
many.
this, you know, this is great.
The
And
boys said that.
I think they did. I think they wrote me a note. And, I liked the fact that I was on the ground floor. I could just go out my door and turn right. I could get into the garage. I could turn left. I could go to the front door. I didn't have to put my dogs on an elevator. And they could go out on the patio on a nice day. You know, I got a chair out there. I could sit there and read. The dogs could sit there with me, you know, and they always have something to bark at. So that part was nice. So 4 places. I mean, they all are okay, but I walked in and I felt like this is like walking into a nursing home.
Mhm.
Not that I want to badmouth nursing homes, they have their place, but this was like a community.
I thought that, like a hotel,
Like a
like a
hotel.
really nice hotel.
Right.
Like a resort hotel.
Yeah.
And the apartments are so well
Like a
done,
resort hotel.
you know, I mean, I have a bigger refrigerator in this apartment than in any condo or house that I've ever owned. And I had a condo, and I had a big house, and I had a house I built. This refrigerator's bigger.
Wow.
I did not look at any facilities. My children, our children, looked at them, and they decided on this one. When they showed it to us, that's when we said, yes, absolutely. So I was very thankful that I didn't have to go through that. Also, one of the major things for us was that we did not have to buy in.
Mhm.
Financially, we absolutely could not do that, and that there was not a time limit. You didn't say that, okay, if you move in, you're renting for a year. That was not the case at all. The only thing I disliked was the area, because we always lived in a neighborhood, and where we lived in Glenview, it was grass and trees, et cetera, et cetera. So,
We're ahead of our time.
Yeah.
yep, I'm just being
Understood.
honest.
Could I add one more thing? if I
Sure.
might? And this is to allude to what was being said by Trudy. We're a family here. We're different. We're a family. It's like we have brothers and sisters, and sometimes you like a sister and you like another sister better, or you like, but that doesn't matter. We're still family.
Right.
And I think that ties it up a little better.
And very concerned about each other.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
Very concerned.
I think that's very true.
When they brought me in, and there was nothing here but the trail, I liked the area because of the shopping area. You know, they had, I thought, there's Walmart right across the street,
Yep.
you know.
We had Carson's.
And then you had Carson's, that area, and then there was the Red Lobster. Olive Garden. I said, Outback. I said, okay, and then I went down Tule, and you had all of the stores down there. I said, oh yeah, this is an area I like.
And
I
Blue
like, and then I
Bananas.
passed the medicine store. I said, oh, I have no problem.
Yeah. And then, of course, Benny's.
Yeah, well,
That's the medicine store. Oh! Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. And then Walgreens too, so you get your drugs.
All of that was, yeah, oh, yeah.
And Walgreens, all you have to do is
This is good.
tell them you need your prescription, and the next day, the concierge calls you and said, your prescriptions are here.
Yes, Marianne, deliver mine.
Yep.
And by the way, I'm just thinking that when we get back to normal, there really should be a Benny's run.
A leasing space next door.
Add it to the convenience store.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Not a selection, but just a bottle or two.
Great. All right. Well, hey, gonna shift gears a little bit, and I think it is this. We'll cover 2 or 3 top the questions with this. Just walk us through prior to the virus. What was a typical day for each of you at the community? A typical week, and just specifically what extracurricular things, involvements did you have with? Because I think each of you kind of interact with the community in different ways.
Could I answer for my husband? Since he's resident council, it's going to 11 meetings a week, so don't ask him what else he does.
Right.
No, that's
you're
that.
going.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well,
Actually,
he does errands for you, dear.
yes, that's right.
Oh, every day. Don't you forget the honeydew. I know,
I've
Pat,
been
because
accused of an awful lot.
if you see Phil and you say, Phil, what are you doing? Honeydew. Oh, Pat has me and I have to do this, and then she said I have to do that. Lots of honeydews.
You're gonna get in trouble at home.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Phil. I thought we were healthy.
You know those sisters that you like and don't like? No, in all honesty, I think not just being on the resident council. That's good too. But I got the chance to do one of the things that I like to do, and that was present the movies for the evening. And
We appreciate it.
you're right, and I showed a lot of movies. I showed a lot of old movies. I thought that would be a nice little education. Some people would say, "Gee, that was a great movie." And then you meet somebody down the hall and say, "That was a terrible movie that you put out."
Everybody's a critic.
Yeah.
That's just like the dining room. That was a great meal. What a horrible dinner.
So I said, "Oh, I'm happy you did," and I used to say, "Oh, I'm sorry about
Yeah,
that."
that's right.
So I said that all day long. But as it turns out, it really is a good situation. We had a play. That's right. We did a play.
Well, I'll build on what you're just saying. I mean, you can be as creative here as you want to be. I mean, you want to start up a class about something? I mean, okay, I love to tell stories. What do I want to do? I think I'll start a class in storytelling.
Trudy, tell them about our town.
Okay.
Tell them.
And then we started with a play. I said, let's do that. Let's do play reading. So all of a sudden we started doing play reading. Our first play was actually Women Speak during Women's Week,
Correct.
which went over very well. Then we did some radio plays because we figured, oh, this is the perfect audience for radio. You know, everybody probably listened to it. And then I think Phil brought this to one of our play reading Saturdays, and he said, maybe we should try and do like a play that everybody's familiar with. Maybe we could do Our Town. Oh my gosh, we could do Our Town. Could we do that? Everybody, high school kids do that. And Phil said, I'll talk to the librarian and I'll see if she can get all the copies of the play. And they got the play and we started to go through it and we said, wait a minute, this is not gonna work. It's over 2 hours long, and first of all, we've got people that are not gonna sit there for 2 hours.
They'll fall asleep.
Or they'll fall asleep, and then we'll be playing to an audience of sleeping people, so.
Just like me.
Yeah. So I got on the internet, and Phil got on the internet, and we're looking around, and lo and behold, what do I find when I go to Indiana University? I find they have an entire department in the Lilly Library that has all of Orson Welles' radio plays. And what do you think I found there? Our Town. Cut down to like under 2 hours. It was an hour and something. So we brought that and we took that. We got the scripts. They were nice enough to PDF me a script. Happened to be a script that had the original script, and it happened to have all of the handwritten notes from Orson himself in it. I couldn't believe it, and we got it for free. So we made copies of that, and we had no problem casting it. I had men that wanted to do parts.
Don't forget Margie, what she did with the script.
And then we had Margie, who is our technical person, who figured out a way to condense down the script and did it all on the computer for us. So we did that in April to a crowd, the largest crowd we've ever had of residents and family. And we did it all in a small room. We don't have an auditorium. One of the things they didn't think about when they built this was to have a place where we could stage things like this.
Well, they didn't think we'd
But they didn't think we'd be doing that, I suppose. But we found the bistro is a good spot.
Yeah.
It was an overwhelming success. I mean, everybody loved it, everybody that was part of it. And I have people that come up to me, not so much now, but up previous to this, who will say to me, have you got a new play? Because I want to be in it. And I say, well, I'm doing the research right now, but I haven't found anything yet. But
We did Oklahoma also.
well, that was we did several radio plays. Yeah. We did Oklahoma. It was called South Dakota, though, not really Oklahoma. Yeah.
That was nice.
I like the fact that anything that you want to do is possible.
Absolutely.
I have yet ever talked to our activity director who hasn't thought it was possible.
Or Jim.
Well, that's not his
I know,
particular,
but he is
the
supportive.
man at the top, yes.
He's
He
supportive.
puts out the dollar, he puts out the checkbook for it.
Yes.
But every
yeah.
kind of a game that you can think of is possible. We have a wizard group, we have bridge groups, we have,
Mexican
dominoes,
canasta,
canasta,
wait,
Mahjong.
we have bingo.
Yes, bingo, televised bingo during COVID-19. And so that really anything is possible. And
Happy hour.
happy hour
Chair
every
volleyball.
Wednesday. Chair
that's what
volleyball,
I did.
a
Chair
favorite of
volleyball.
everyone. And truly, anything. Movies every night, and really anything that you could think of that you would want. And it's true what you said, if you want it, if you're willing to invest your own energy into something, that particularly will be a possibility. Rick is limited with how many activities can he supervise, but if you're willing to run with something,
Absolutely.
and we have a wonderful volunteer here who has slowly but surely gathered quite a group of people around her for simply little talks
Conversation.
by
Have the
residents,
conversation.
20 minutes, well, the art of conversation, but the one that's before that, were 20 minutes just telling about yourself or something that is interesting to you.
The resident forum.
The resident forum,
You
right.
be the judge.
Thank
And don't
you for-
sell yourself
You be
short,
the
madam.
judge and hip-hop.
How about all of your
time of
teas?
hip-hop.
Well, we've had 4 teas, I think, very much appreciated teas of all, with chapeaus for those who care to do. But I think for me, morning breakfast hour is the most important time, where I come downstairs and get to talk to a lot of the little people, a lot of the people who isolate themselves and only kind of sneak down to breakfast so they can kind of sit by themselves. But you know, when they sit by themselves, there's always an empty spot next to them. And I like coming and talking with them because they have their story to tell, and they're really interesting
Everybody has a
people.
great story.
And so
Yeah, great
breakfast always takes me about an hour and a half or more.
We've had residents, and no names are gonna be said, but we've had residents that came in, and their children used to say, well, they kind of secluded themselves in their apartments and they won't come out. Once we got a hold of them.
Yeah, there's just been a few exceptions to that. There are a couple people that, by their nature, culture, and everything, they just cannot,
And that's okay.
and that's
That's okay.
right. That's
okay.
Thank you.
right.
That's great. I'm one of those isolators,
Yeah.
and there are various reasons for it. I'm just jumping in here now. Number one, I have a pretty active life, and I'm still working, even though I can work remotely, so I'm involved in that. As I said, I have a sister in nursing home. I go over at lunch hour for her, and I help making sure that she gets her best meal of the day. And then I prefer not to sit down in the dining room.
Right.
Because there is a lot of,
Yes,
uh,
yes, go ahead, say it.
I'm trying to find the right word.
There's
It's
only
like,
one.
it's almost like there's set tables. And even though the dining room has tried to change that, we'll teach you. And I know, people just they want to sit together, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't like that. And so I'm perfectly comfortable eating upstairs. I think over so much time that I've been here, you've all got used to me and realized I'm not unsocial or antisocial. I'm not a bad guy. But if I don't prefer to eat with you, get
That's
over
okay.
it.
That's
Get
okay.
over it.
But that's
You know?
okay.
As our friend, and I will say our friend, said to me, you're kind of unfiltered like me. So that's the way it goes.
In case you didn't pick it up, Chris is the social worker.
Look, I plan to be here a long time.
Yeah.
If I'm not
So was
participating in
I for
activities,
almost 40 years.
if I'm not participating in activities now,
We'll get
I
you
might
later.
in the future. It's nice to know that they're there.
That's right.
I'm just not ready to do it.
Yeah,
I'm usually
and
a
that's-
busy guy.
That's fine. That's fine.
I know.
I know.
I know
And I like meeting you on the elevator.
Mary Ann, I think though, I really was getting reactions from people,
Oh,
about it, and it's like, I don't have time.
get a life.
Right, get over it. I think most of you have, you accept me, and that's.
There are a
that's
few
nice.
people similar to you that just prefer that, and
Yeah,
that is
prefer
their
that.
right. I mean,
Right.
I absolutely love talking to people here. I prefer smaller groups, I'll sit down with you and we'll talk and that sort of thing, and I enjoy that, and it's available to me, and that's good. And it's fine for me. I don't need the other now. In the future, it's really nice to know that it'll be there.
Of course.
I haven't taken asked in probably 50 years. Who knows?
yes, this is a continuum.
Yeah.
It's not today or tomorrow.
Absolutely.
MJ?
Well, what was the question?
I don't know.
About your day
Your
and what are
day.
you
Oh,
involved
you
in?
did you speak here?
No,
If we're
she
going to.
didn't.
I jumped in. interview. 'Cause
Well, me, my
You can see I
day,
run a lot of meetings.
I don't usually come down to breakfast, but my day started lunch. Earlier activities, I do play with it. I enjoy that and I miss it. And I do chair volleyball. I go to the gym to do the balance class. And we now started the Latin dance group that will start back hopefully when this is all over. And I enjoy doing those things. And then I'm active with the council and the food committee that keep us kind of busy and on our toes every day. We always have our ears open and listen to things that they want us to share and take back to the staff in the kitchen. So that keeps us busy.
Okay, so this is Mary Jo. I'm also on resident council, and for me, being on resident council, I attend a lot of meetings. I have a laptop and I know how to take notes. So Cosetta asked me to be on the food service committee so I can take notes. We do take notes during our committee meetings, and I'm head of the chair of the activities committee, which is a little strange because I am almost the least interested in activities here. I have, I'm independent. We go out of the building almost like you, Chris. The play reading stuff was a lot of fun, but my role here, particularly on council, is advocating for residents as much as I'm able. We tend to come to the dining room a lot, and a lot of my day is spent talking with people. Lunch, breakfast, dinner, hanging around, usually the last ones in the dining room. So it's just a lot of talking, and I like the fitness center. I don't have a very structured day, and I kind of like that, except for all the meetings we go to.
Right. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, my greatest joy is bingo.
Winning a bingo or just playing a bingo?
They're both.
I won that. Mary Jo was also my welcoming committee, and she was wonderful. And the great part was that once she heard I was a social worker, she brought 2 social workers over who lived around the corner from me, and I had known one of them. And so that was wonderful. It was just thoughtful of her. Chris, you're a social worker, you're new here. Here are 2 other social workers who were here, and that was great. It was very nice.
Good. This is Trudy. I'm into everything, so, and I'm always, I have one of those minds that just never stops. I have like a large Rolodex in my head, and I never know where it's gonna land. So, if I come up with an idea, I let it fly, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. And sometimes you have to approach the activities person, and he's usually very good about listening to what you're doing and talking about space or where you want to do it. And in regard to the virus, we've sort of had to shut down a lot of things. We had to figure out a way to do bingo remotely. Social distancing, so that's always interesting. But of course, when they tried to give Thursday night bingo to one of the staff, they were so intimidated by the group that they went to the activities coordinator and said, I can't do that anymore, I've got to quit. And he was like, what am I going to do? What do you mean you have to quit? And so I said, and I heard about this, and I said, I'll do bingo, don't worry. So I took over Thursday night bingo, and it turned out to be lots of fun because I know everybody that goes to it. But on other things, I came up with an idea. I'm thinking, what can we do during this virus time, whenever we're in semi-lockdown? However, semi-lockdown here is kind of like what they talk about when white-collar criminals have to go to those special prisons, where they have everything, because we really are not missing any amenities. We get a knock on the door, and a very pleasant, happy kitchen person says, well, good morning, here's your breakfast. So, anyway, I'm thinking, what can we do so we feel like we're more a part of this? So I come to Jim, whose office door is always open, and he's sitting here, and I said, this is, what is it, Monday? This is my Monday proposal. I said, what do you think about this idea? I said, this will be a great idea for us as residents to think we're doing something important, and it'll be great for you and the Carrington, because it'll mean that you're very involved in community things. What could that be? I said, I heard a plea by the governor and the woman that runs the Red Cross in the Illinois area, and she said there have been over 120 cancellations of the blood mobile, and we are desperately and in dire need of blood. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. A lot of people are afraid of it. But it's, you know, they all have all the precautions. They do everything the right way. I said, what about well volunteers from independent living that could do this? What do you think about that? And Jim said, put a list out. Let's see if we get enough people. He said, you take care of the residents, I'll take care of the employees. And Jim has an able assistant who's like can whip out a flyer in a moment. She put together beautiful Red Cross information about it. We put out a sign-up sheet in the mailroom. Currently, I think we have with employees and residents about 17 people that are willing to donate blood.
I have a question.
Yes.
There used to be age restrictions.
Yeah, there still are age restrictions.
Yeah. I think
There are.
So
is the cutoff.
70
is the cutoff.
Yeah.
I think
70
70 is the cutoff. Is the
Yeah.
cutoff, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who in the world's gonna give blood here?
You?
Yeah, thanks. I don't have enough for everybody.
She's on the list.
You can't even.
I can't do it now if you're telling me it's 70.
Are you sure?
I thought it was.
Yeah,
I
you gotta check it.
I know it was.
Well, we'll check it, though.
But I don't know
We'll
if they
find
believe.
out, but obviously nowadays,
Maybe they'll make an exception.
I mean, I'm a long time I could show you the whole.
Me
You know,
man.
working in
I'm
a
a universal
hospital.
donor, but I'm too old.
I've done a lot
My
of
wife
that
used to donate blood to Life
Life
and
source.
they would
Yeah, Life
torture,
Source.
they would torture her, and she was the nice one.
But that was
they
part
nervous.
It's still
And I
part
go,
of the.
Betty, they know, it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
And she was in her 70s. when
Okay,
Still doing
well,
that, so.
Okay.
No, this says there's no upper age limit for blood
Okay.
donation, as long
But
as
there
you are
used to
well
be.
with no restrictions.
Yeah.
That's great.
Blood is blood. Good.
So we'll
Well,
see
you're
how
saying
that
I
goes.
I don't have a good idea.
We're getting close to checking on it.
I'm gonna do it.
Well, it also
Right.
depends on
Not
the
easy.
medication that you're
They
on.
have a real hard time with that.
Well, you
there'll
know,
be questions
There'll be
there,
questions.
we'll work with them. And
you
it's,
know,
we're raised and led by Trudy, Carrington's raising the hand. So we'll see what we can do to help, and if we can,
Yeah.
a surprise number of employees as well.
Yeah.
Most coming from assisted the nursing staff and everything. Everybody's concerned that from all the stories we're hearing. So it's kind of, hey, let's just do it because it's kind of a cool thing to do, and it's certainly where I think a lot of the other communities, they really are kind of getting locked down in place, like with my dad's place, where they're getting locked out, door locked out,
Oh, literally.
and everything else. It just kind of shows the metal, METTLE for the students.
But
of the
people here
who live
still
here,
going in and
exactly.
out. I hear cars going in and out all the time.
Yeah, but it's if we're smart, we're prudent, we're following the CDC guidelines, and if we can do this, it's certainly something that there's not too many other people are even thinking about. So it's a testament to Trudy for kind of outside the box thinking.
I would like to just, before you, Mary Ann, I want to just go back for a moment. One of the most important things that I think we do here, and I may have the organization part of the welcome committee, but I don't do the welcoming. And so I entrust the teams that do the welcoming to do this wonderful job of greeting the people, giving them information, dining with them, just helping them in whatever way not only initially meeting with them, but with follow-up meetings. And from my point of view, that may be one of the big successes that we have here. Because when you can tell a potential resident that you will be met by this committee, that you will be escorted to a meal, dependent upon the needs, obviously, of a given individual. That takes a lot of fear out of coming into a strange environment. And this is a strange environment for us the first day, no matter what.
No, Pat, you're right, though. It was really nice to have Mary Jo and, Joe Winkin.
That's me, Mary
No,
Jo
who's
Winkin.
the other?
But who was with
Who was
you?
the other?
Mayor Pat.
No, she wasn't with you.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
Partner in crime.
Who was your partner on the team?
No, somebody told me.
Oh,
She
that-
told me at lunch that a welcoming committee would be
Yeah.
there to see you. So it was just, I had someone I could go to
Yes.
ask questions
Yes.
without being annoying to staff and saying, how's it really work? Like the great thing you do, coming in with the tape, it's like, it was like heaven. I could turn that right off.
I'm sorry, Mary Ann,
No,
back to
no,
you.
that's quite all right, because what I'm about to say is frivolous. I mean, I enjoy all of the activities when they were available to us, and that's what occupies my day. But I would like to say that several days ago, our children wanted to visit us, and it's very important for my husband to see them. So with Trudy, I arranged for us to go down to her patio, and they stood out on the lawn, and that's how we visited. And it was a surprise for Terry. I just want to remind you all that my husband has dementia. He was so moved that he just was almost in tears that his kids, you know, the three that live in the area were there, and our firstborn grandson. So if you know, you can figure out a way to do things despite what's going on now. And I want to thank Trudy for helping me set this up. And she did bring out white wine and red wine in plastic wine glasses.
All right.
Hey, got it made, got it made.
I know it.
She had made a trip to the medicine.
Yeah, she had.
Actually, I walked into the tap and got four plastic glasses from behind the bar, so I'd have plastic glasses.
And the way I got on the food committee is one day, Cosetta said to me, meetings at 1:30, food committee, be there. And I said, okay.
That's called Cosetta.
I didn't even sign up for it, but.
Well, that's the same way I got my Amazon Alexa. She walked up to me and she said, "You need an Alexa in your apartment? We're doing something where we're gonna have volunteers." I said, I don't know if I need an Alexa. Well, you're gonna get on the list.
That's good. All right. Well, I'll tell you, the proverbial elephant in the room is, of course, this COVID-19, and it has changed fundamentally our lives, the way we do. Yeah, exactly, the way we do these things. So maybe if just personal experiences, and I think we're going to start with Mary Ann on this side, kind of running counterclockwise, but just how has it affected you, and just how are we keeping smiles? How are we happy, or are we not happy?
The way it has really affected us is the fact that our children would come once a week, either on Wednesday night, and we'd share dinner upstairs in our apartment, or they'd come for coffee on either Saturday or Sunday morning. So that routine certainly has been changed, and it has really affected their father. Also, I still drive, and one of the ways to appease my husband is to take him out for a ride He enjoys that. We go to the Wilmette Park on the lake, and so even though we don't go into any place, I don't know that I really feel comfortable in going out and about. So that's another thing that has been changed, of me taking him out for rides. And of course, worrying about our families. Now, all of our children are now working from home. The grandchildren are taking classes at home. The little girls in Virginia, 5 in kindergarten, and the 2-year-old are at home, and the 5-year-old said to her mother, "Mom, when is this homeschooling going to stop?" She wants to get back to school.
Yeah, for sure. Same with me. I mean, my niece called me the other day and she said, "Do you still have that WhatsApp on your phone?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if I still have it. I know I had it once." And she said, "Well, would you install it, because my kids really want to talk to you and they really want to see the dogs." And I said, okay. So I installed it again, and then we text back and forth. And then last night I got a text and she said, "Can you do it now?" And I said, "Yeah, fine." So all of a sudden, here come the 3 kids, the 4-year-old twins and the 8-year-old, and they're eating their dessert in the kitchen, and they're talking to me and asking me things and telling me things, and we're having a video chat. So it was very helpful. But, I mean, I hate it. I can't do bingo anymore, and I hate it, but I'm learning to live within it, because I have to believe the sign I have hanging on my door, which says "Choose Happy." And you can find it. And I find that if you go out every day, well, I walk all the time because I have dogs. So I'm out at least 3 times a day. Yesterday, it was the most beautiful day here.
Yeah,
it was in the 60s. The sun was out. I walked to the dog park, and there's sitting a friend of mine who doesn't have dogs. She was just sitting in the dog park because it was nice and sunny. So I sat there, and then pretty soon comes another person with a dog, and pretty soon comes another person with a dog. There's not a whole bunch of dogs. It was a dog. We had a dog party.
Yeah.
And then we didn't have enough seats, and so Mary Ann said, "I'll go get my car. I'll put a couple of chairs in there and bring them
From the garage.
from the garage." So she brought.
They're missing
Then we had
chairs
enough
from the
chairs.
garage.
Then walking by comes Mary Jo and Sam. "Hello!" They're yelling.
Did you
"Oh,
keep
hello."
your distance? Oh, yeah,
Oh,
honey.
6 feet apart.
Yeah, the dogs did.
The dogs don't keep their distance.
Okay.
So these things happen. You know, you run across, you're walking around. I'm sure you ran into all kinds of people yesterday walking,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they were out.
The COVID-19 thing has been very illuminating to me, and Chris, you might understand this better than some folks here. I actually feel like it's made me feel a little bit more like living at home, because I didn't realize I don't always like going to the dining room to eat, because sometimes I like just feeling like I'm doing my thing in my home. And so having the food delivered, we pull out our own bowls, I'm using my own silverware, my own glasses. I can
agree
use all
with you there.
I can do all the condiments
Yeah.
I want, we can take our time. And when we
Yeah.
want to socialize, we came down the other day and brought our breakfast to the cafe. So then that kind of happens. So I personally am really enjoying experiencing this and wondering how I'm going to feel when things go back to normal, because I may not want to always go down and try to find somebody to talk to.
Well, you don't have.
You don't have to.
No, I know, but that's
Right.
how we were eating.
Mhm.
And the concept of just takeout, it's been a little clarifying for me, is all I'm saying. So I've kind of enjoyed it,
Interesting, yeah.
frankly.
Well, I'll have to agree with you there, because it's because of Terry that I go down for every meal.
Right.
I skip breakfast. He always wants me to go, but I don't like to rush in the morning. But I would definitely choose to eat at home more often.
Yeah,
But he always wants to go down.
yeah.
So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who eat in because there's 40 meals a day that they bag and send out before COVID-19. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of people, we being one of them, that generally has dinner at home.
Yeah,
It'll
you're right, Pat, you're right.
be a choice perhaps more frequently used.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
it is,
it's really,
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, I would do that, but Terry
Oh, and
doesn't
Terry
like that,
needs
so,
that.
yeah.
He needs that.
yeah, so anyway, it's been interesting
Yeah.
experience to me.
I think since COVID-19, I've appreciated how the Carrington has stepped forward.
Right.
And they have slowly implemented. Even though from your first speech on how long this would be, I went, everybody was being cautious,
Yeah.
about it and limiting so that you could take it in small bites, but there was no way it was going to be short duration. I want to say today I went to my sister's nursing home because I still deliver fresh fruit to her and other stuff. And prior to this, I could go in the front door and leave it at the front desk and say hi to the staff there and that kind of stuff. And I can't even go in the front door now. So I'm sure
I'm
that's
surprised
probably
you did as long as you did.
But I want that. I want all those
To know that.
precautions. I tell all my friends, I have it pretty cushy. If you're gonna be living through this thing, this is a good place to do it, and
Yeah,
I'm sure they all wanna kill me because I get 3 meals a day.
that is so, I'm sorry for interrupting, but a couple of times what I've done is after our food arrives, I display it nicely on a plate with a placemat and everything and take a picture and send it to my kids.
Cool.
What do you guys have in
Oh, my
bologna
son
cheese or-
says, I wanna live at the Carrington.
But it's gonna be tough. And so the more and more we get constrained, it's really nice to hear how creative that the Carrington is trying to be,
Right.
including that ice cream the other day. At first
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
it's beautiful.
I don't need it, And then at the end of the day, they only had so many left. Jim, were you down there when they did this? And I said, well, okay. They said, all we have left is sugar-free. That's what I want.
But, you have to give kudos to them. They are really doing a great job. I appreciate them so much.
Absolutely.
They are doing a great job.
It is funny, I'll jump back in real quick for the benefit of the leadership and management class. And it was, obviously we have a lot of administrators, and that's been the big debate, to tell you the truth. And there are probably, and this is strictly anecdotal right now, even though we're going to dig deeper into it once the dust settles. We very consciously slow played this. And everybody knows slow played. If you play poker or whatever, it's just, yeah, I know what I got, but I'm just not going to, I don't want you to know what I got just yet. So I'm going to
Jim,
slow play.
everyone did that. Everyone, all of the places where I worked, it
Yeah.
was all done in slow.
Around the country, though, there were some that just immediately jumped in, like after Kirkland. Those are the ones where they continually have, where they shut everything down immediately.
But maybe they had to because they had more cases. It was more dire
And
there
that's
than
what we're
here.
looking into.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we're kind of following CDC guidelines, and they kind of brought it down. But just that the knee-jerk reaction is sometimes to really kind of lock everything down. And oddly enough, that's what China did. I mean, they literally, and they only had one recorded case of a nursing home in Wuhan that actually the infection got through, and we never heard what happened. But so that one's just, but for the rest of the nursing homes in the entire country, keep in mind, these nursing homes are ward style.
Yeah.
So that's 6 to the room, 7 to the room. And I don't judge. I mean, our,
That's
probably
right.
our great-grandparents, our grandparents. You've got these are economic institutions taking care of a large number of people in a small amount of space. But again, a real testament there that they didn't have the widespread outbreaks,
Right.
that they were able to contain it. And the same thing, those employees, they very much what we were going through, or what those other places went through. There, it worked out. here, as I said, time will tell. It looks like we might have a few more, we probably have more behavioral problems. And that's just anecdotal, but for those places, and particularly with the memory care, where sometimes people just didn't have the ability to comprehend, hey, yeah, why am I suddenly not getting visitors and this stuff? So we did, even within there, we really did kind of almost on a case-by-case basis here at the Carrington. I think we did a pretty good job of juggling it. We're still now making available those 2 tables outside of the assisted living dining room, and we kind of call that the picnic spot, and modeled not much differently than the 3rd floor, where people just bring their lunches in. So like, hey, if you want to take your spouse out of memory care, you can just set it up right here. And so a couple of times that's been used. And yeah, it's kind of
a good approach.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, yeah, from the industry, it's the slow playing is, when you have that luxury, by far seems to be the preferred way to go.
It's a good way.
Yeah, yeah. I think with Costello, we left it with you, and you were talking about ice cream.
Yes, that was a treat. That was really a great treat, because we're all addicted to ice cream, you know.
Absolutely.
And then that came around, that was really
Okay, we'll want to walk all the way down here.
a great treat.
Okay, good.
And the staff, and you know, and the work staff, they come to work, and I know they're scared, and they deliver our meals, so you have to say thank you to them.
That's going to be the next question.
You have to say thank you to them. Because it is trying times, and I appreciate them. And I have enjoyed my meals, and believe it or not, they've all come to me hot.
That's amazing. Hot meals with a smiling
With a
face. What more
smiling
could you ask for?
Even the oatmeal's hot in the morning.
Yes, they bring it to
Yeah.
you hot. Yeah. That is really great. They did a great job.
Pat, how about the virus from a nursing point of view?
Well, of course,
Or from
I think of
your point of view.
bugs, it's a different sort of thing. But I wasn't concerned from the beginning, because we didn't have active cases. Really, Chicago as a whole does not have yet many cases. So we have been lucky. So I didn't think it called for shutting this place down or anything, but to go gradually toward a more restrictive attitude. Am I wishful thinking enough to think it's not going to come? I think we're going to see it get a lot worse before we see it get better. I mean, a lot worse. We're going to see that million number and that 2 million number or more in the country. And strictly from a sanitary, medical viewpoint, who was it this morning that, Art was telling us, if you go to the VA hospital up at Great Lakes, you put a mask on, and then a hood is put over your head. So they double protect every single person that is coming in, as well as the providers. And I thought, gee, that we should all have such luxury, because we still see COVID-19 as something remote. As of this hour, I don't know of anyone in my family that has it. I don't know anyone that has it. So it's still out there. And I don't think until it's personal that we have the capacity to think, egads, I could get it and it could be my life. So I rest hopefully, because we've taken good precautions, that we all seem to be aware of the need to sanitize. It was funny when the packages came today, and he's holding up the package and I'm wiping them down with the sanitizer. But I do think that it's to school us before it becomes an absolute necessity, because the necessity is probably going to come.
I think it's made us aware of the world around us, like you just said. You're gonna wipe down the package before,
Yep.
Never
just
given a
never
thought.
worried about it.
Those who are lucky enough to find sanitizing wipes,
You know, and then you look at the ones that's being tested. They most of the front line and caregivers and on the line. Ordinary people are not being tested.
Right.
And you
You
only,
have to have a symptom, you have to have symptoms.
and you maybe, and some people never get symptoms, and they have it.
And they're carriers.
And they
they're
carry it.
carriers.
And, you know, they carry it.
And
So
I think that's why we have to be careful.
extremely careful. And until they can get the testing down, now they're trying to test people that's on the front line to make sure that they are okay. And ordinary people just stay at home and, you know, and quarantine yourself. But it's more people out here with the virus than the count is saying, because there are no tests to verify it.
That's correct.
You got a lot of carriers out here.
I have 6 different people out there looking to see if we can buy the tests. They're not that expensive. 600 tests would be about $1,200.
That's a
If they go
reasonable,
through
No,
the
that's
lab work,
reasonable.
yeah.
and
And who would run them? That's the thing.
we would strike a deal with one of the local hospitals.
Okay, okay.
Giving them some of the tests, and just, if you've ever been involved with the military, and you know there's logistical requests, and then there's horse trading.
And midnight
we would-
requisitioning.
Yes, we would do a little horse trading, and really what we would be interested in is that ability where we don't have to send someone to the hospital. That is the number one concern we have, everything we're reading and hearing. This is a pretty safe bubble from a COVID point of view. It doesn't necessarily mean we're vulnerable, you know, some of the employees coming in and out, but as long as their families are home, we're not gonna have that many opportunities. And certainly, there's a lot more for people that are out there working downtown and some of these other things, which is why society shut down. But if we do think if we can get that, life can become a little bit more normal. Because if there is a concern or somebody does have, we've had 2 cases of pneumonia here. Both of them have been tested, 1 employee, 1 resident. They both came back negative for the COVID virus. Altogether, there have been 6 tests that have been run. And we're either 0 for 6 or 6 for 6, depending upon how you want to keep score on that. But so far, we're monitoring it. There's different reasons people are getting these things, but the typical profile is there's some strong pre-existing conditions, and that's a particularly acute type of pressure. If we can alleviate that pressure without having to send somebody to the hospital.
Where they're
even-
bound to get it.
Exactly. I hate to say it, but
Yeah, that's right.
you've got the caregivers there, and we have about, yeah,
And that's true.
the burn rate on some of
It's
those.
best to keep yourself isolated at home.
Yeah, and so our home is a little bit bigger than perhaps some of the other apartments that people are in, but nevertheless, we go through 7 or 8 of those disinfectant wipes a day.
Sure.
Yeah, elevators, you know, that, like, I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yeah.
I love the smell of bleach in the morning. And,
Exactly.
yeah, and it is, when you get on the elevators and stuff, and we're,
Yeah, that's okay.
bit by bit, we're finding out not all bleach cannot be used on all things. Apparently, our dining room tables, we're going to be back to using tablecloths. And just
Cover 'em up for
So
a
it's a
while.
small price to pay for making sure that they're kept
But I have a question.
clean.
Are
Yes, ma'am.
all games, everything stopped?
You know, at this point, we've got
you mean organized?
organized games. The Carrington cannot organize any games.
Sponsored.
We are, I'm acutely aware I'm on film here, but the Carrington cannot organize any activities that might require 10 or more people. And if so, that's where we kind of expose ourselves. We tried to see if with Axel, if there could just be one-on-one or a small group. Every time we got together with the small groups, every time we had a board game, setting some spontaneous thing, we would draw bigger crowds. And it just kind of, it made it very difficult to manage. And so at this point, so here's kind of the, we've got the CDC guidance, which is no groups 10 or larger. And we just can't do that. But there's nothing to say among residents. You've got that same guidance that we do and that recommendation. You got to keep it under 10. There's social distancing, the 6 feet, the 3-foot span. There's nothing to say if a group of residents under 10 want to get together
And play wizard.
with a little social distancing. And it's gonna be hard, and this is where I said we're kind of like a family. And again,
That's
anywhere else.
3 times,
Yeah.
okay? Do we have to estimate you?
No. I cough and I'll sneeze 3 times.
There we go.
And God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you as well. But and so again, we can, I think, and we've got several different things going on. We're trying to keep everybody at ease. But sometimes when they saw the group before playing bingo in the lobby here, or not bingo, but some of the card games and stuff, that kind of, my phone would ring up. So at this point,
Or exercising. I really finally got Terry to go down to exercising. We thought we were far enough apart.
yeah. But let me tell you on that, in 6 years in China, we didn't build exercise rooms because people went outside.
Right.
Guys that cheer volleyball, we're going to be out there somewhere in this campus. If I got to close the road down, we're going to shut it down, and we're going to have our cheer volleyball outside.
Wonderful.
Somebody's going to have to be like Little League, oh, there goes the ball again. Somebody's going to have to chase it.
But we have Axel for that?
But
We got the ball boy. Isn't he the ball boy?
we may need two.
The courtyard is good for that.
The courtyard may
That
be.
would be perfect.
We will find
Yeah.
a place for it. We'll find a place for dances. We'll find a place. I sent the video to these guys last night. There's Tai Chi. There's a number of different things we can do, and we'll just have to take it outside. So that's I think is going to work in the long run.
Outside bingo.
Outside bingo?
Yeah, and even with that, it's 2 small groups, but that's not to say we can't have one over here
And one
and one over
down
here.
Right.
Exactly, and so maybe there is 20 people out there exercising, but there's social distance and all that stuff. So we can, there's a lot of stuff we can do once the weather starts cooperating a little bit. I can tell you it's 58 degrees with a chance of showers this Saturday. That's what I got Axel checking the weather report, and the first chance we get, we want to hit this thing quick and just let people know, hey. And even with, so we'll be able to do a lot more things once the weather breaks. So yes, people can get together with the small groups. Officially, I've got to get up there and remind them, so social distancing, but it's not our way for me to stand there hovering over, and we all recognize.
That might be a great that's a great idea for the courtyards and a great use for the courtyards, because people can come out on their balconies
and watch.
and they could watch.
Right.
And they'd be getting fresh air.
No, they can retrieve the ball that went on their belt.
Oh, they can do that. Yes.
We were looking to see if we can even bring in some music or something like that.
That'd be
They
great.
don't even have to come in the building. They can
They
just
could
come out
come in
there.
through
One in
the
each
courtyard.
courtyard. We may have to open up empty apartments, even though there's not too many empty apartments overlooking the courtyards. But yeah, we've got some different fun ideas in the pipeline that
Good, great.
Good. That's good.
need the help from the weatherman. Hey, just a couple more questions and we'll wind this down. But what makes a great employee, a memorable employee, and why?
We have a lot of really good kitchen people, and we've got a fantastic person that is in charge of Monica. She does a great job. She's very good at picking her staff. We haven't had such a great record with cooks, however. Chefs.
Yeah.
We got great cooks. We've got good cooks, and they work hard. And but the servers, for the most part, are really nice, and they're really standing up now with this delivery stuff. I mean, they're always pleasant in the morning,
They
they're
all
always,
need a wow award.
yeah. We have to think of some kind of really nice
They need a nice
party
wow
for
award.
them or something
Yeah, we
afterward.
we may have to do another one at the hotel.
Yeah,
We did
that
the
would be
Christmas
great.
party there, and
Oh, that would be great,
there's,
'cause
there's
they
still
need a
talk
wow,
about it, yeah.
they need a wow award.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, I mean, the girls and the kitchen staff, and they bend over backwards actually to help you. Last night,
Right.
I was in dire need of a root beer float.
Mm.
And I went over to the kitchen to see if I could see anybody there, and I saw, one of Andrea's assistants in there, and I pushed open the door, and I called her name. And I said, and she said, what's the matter? I said, I just really, really need a root beer float. She said, I could do that. And the next thing I know, she brings out to me a cup with vanilla ice cream and a bottle of root beer. Took it back to my apartment, had a root beer float.
That's
Nice.
what, they're beautiful, I mean, yeah. They really-
Genuine friendliness.
Just really nice
And being
people.
attentive and what,
And the
so
other
nice.
day, they had chili cornbread, I knocked, I said, may I have another
Oh.
cornbread?
It was worth coming all that distance
Oh, I
to
know.
get one.
Well,
chili was
and
very
it's
good,
a
yeah.
cornbread.
It would have been three of them, but thank
But
you.
what's nice
What?
when you say,
Oh,
It was just
yeah,
good.
that was really
we
good
miss
chili
you,
and the
and they'll say
cornbread.
right back, and we miss you.
And that also goes for the concierge, for the most part, the concierge and the drivers. I mean, poor drivers are really kind of stepping up now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've even offered to, you can order online your stuff from Walmart or wherever. And Rick, who runs activities, said, you can ask the drivers to go pick it up for you if you want.
Mhm.
And so, and they've
Yep.
really stepped up.
What about eyeliner? Would they pick up eyeliner?
Probably they would get
If
the
you
wrong
ask the right
color.
person, they probably would.
I know that, I want to talk about the opposite effect. There's one employee here, no matter what, I have done nothing in this world to offend this human being. I have really had no encountering this human being, other than to every day at some time say good morning or afternoon. A smile is beyond this person's capability, evidently. But I am afraid of her. I would not cross her path for anything. And if I feel that way, I wonder how other people feel, because it is such a deterrent from asking for any help from that individual. A smile is all that's needed. You may not be capable, but if you smile in your lack of ability, all is forgiven. But there's something about the person who has, I don't know what the affect is, but it certainly is not one to draw you in. And if I were alone in that evaluation, I could just speak, well, Pat O'Donnell can't get along with people or something. But I've heard people afraid of this individual, as I would not cross that person. Those people are afraid of this individual, so do not, where they're in a situation to may need this service, they go the other way. So of employees, I cannot think of anyone except that one individual. Abilities may differ, but all is forgiven when you can go at your job happily. And a happy caretaker, whether it was myself or the people that I work with, is just beyond important to me. That's all I've got to say.
Well, I'm glad I haven't run into that person yet.
Yep, I'm glad you have.
They don't want to meet me.
I am just not confrontational. People might think I am, but I could no more have a quarrel with somebody than the man in the moon. And therefore, I have to go the other direction.
Sorry about that.
Well, it's,
No, I.
Whether it's me, that may be it, but it isn't my only, only my observation.
Right.
So that would be what I see when we talk about employees, that they be happy and bring that happiness. Old age isn't an easy thing. It is a time of constraints of all categories, and you just have to have somebody who's willing to assist at that time in your life, or take me someplace else. It would be my motto.
I have not met
You
that
know,
person either.
somebody to build a fear in you, you know what I mean? You fear. No, I'd like to know who that person is.
I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I don't want, because I have gotten along with all of the staff here.
Yeah.
There are some who are more reserved. But I have
reserved is
enjoyed
I haven't met anybody like
getting
that.
to know them.
Yeah.
And then they get to know me, and then I feel they really take good care of me. I feel like I'm special. If, you know, 'cause
You
they-
are special.
That's true, I am.
But, you know, I haven't met that person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would,
And this is the first time, I haven't even heard of another resident saying that they are afraid of a staff person.
yeah, that's wrong.
That's kind of bad.
For the record, the speech I normally give at moments like this, I'll give you the Reader's Digest one, is, hey, you owe it to your fellow neighbors. Not every resident is articulate, can speak up as much as you, and there are some silent ones.
Yes.
And there may be more who don't have that voice, who would certainly appreciate. So, you know, it's okay to pass that name along to me, and I keep you out of it. I keep everybody out of it.
That's possible. That's
And
possible.
we'll talk more about that, but I would hope that,
The Doggy Express, FedEx with a dog.
Carrying a package.
And, you know, it's true that sometimes people's perception of
Absolutely.
yes,
somebody could not be the same, you know, you might have this perception with this
Absolutely.
person. I might know this person, but it's not a problem
It's
with
not
me.
I mean,
Or
If
that
it hadn't
I,
come from other people to me,
right,
then I wouldn't even be saying anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly,
other
and,
people
you know,
feel safer, so. Right.
absolutely.
I just think that, I think the smile is the greatest thing that you get from the employee. And it makes you feel that, not only that they're worth it to you, but you are worth it to them.
Exactly.
It's a reciprocal, type of thing. I can't say enough. That's it.
I think if you take your time and you notice something about every employee that's different.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as saying to, somebody, I love that hairdo on you.
Absolutely.
And they'll laugh, and I'll say, you know, I like it better than that last one you had where you had all that stuff twirled up on top of your head. And they'll laugh, I'll say something, or you ask them about their family, or you, you know, where, did you know each other when you were in Jamaica? No, we didn't know each other, you know, and, I mean, that really makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
They think you care about them, and you do.
What's next, Teach?
we're, you know, I think at this point, kind of two more questions. And, the first one is there anything else you feel that we should talk about that I haven't asked on?
Are you worried about your family members or friends being exposed to?
I think we talked about that
I
already.
just briefly touched on it.
I didn't. I don't remember that because I got two in law enforcement and I kind of worry about them being out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, absolutely
And
too.
I worry about them.
Is there anybody that's not worried about this thing?
No,
I gotta say.
Family, not myself, but family.
we don't
I
hear
am.
too much on the news right now, though, about shootings or anything that's going on, because everybody's obsessed with,
But it's happening.
but it's happening.
It's the news just not bringing
Right.
it out, but it's
That's
happening.
right,
I was
and they
wondering-
put themselves in peril every day,
Yeah.
every day.
And then they don't, the police just start getting equipment, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and the firemen.
In the firm.
And the worst are the healthcare workers. Since
I
I worked in healthcare for all those years, I mean, and it was like second nature. You always knew the masks were there. You always knew you were gonna get a gown. You always knew. And now, people make pleas every
They're
day.
reusing, it's like reusing
Or it's
stuff.
expired.
Oh, right.
Well, that was very, very, very beautiful of you to give Sue Peekna that extra material.
Okay,
Cause she is on that job and she's gonna whip up those masks.
Is she making masks upstairs?
She's making masks, but we couldn't find the HEPA material. And Pat had some, she found some, and she had extra, and she gave it to
Get that
Sue.
in your note.
Yeah,
Were you
yeah.
aware of this?
Well, we had talked previously, and the original thought was cotton, and then we had a nurse consultant said we don't use cotton because it's warm and it absorbs. Only other thing that came up was make sure you could tell there's got to be a business side of it. Make it one color for one side, one for the other, so you know what side has been you're
well,
breathing
that
in and out of.
HEPA is a filter on the outside
Okay.
and
Right.
cloth on the
Right.
inside.
Then that's
And
gonna be
she's got,
okay.
this is Sue Peekna, one of our residents, who's an excellent sewer. She's got 3 different patterns. She's gonna make prototypes of each pattern and then show it to Pat, show it to whoever, and then we'll start a production line.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need it.
You,
Right now,
the
these are
Ninja
sold
Man,
out.
see, you
Yeah,
got
the Ninja ones are pretty much,
the Ninja.
they're not, I like them to carry in my pocket.
No, that's not large enough. It's gotta go under your chin.
There you go.
Those are designed.
No, it's like you
primarily
give up
for
one for the other.
Pollution.
Guys, these are, right, these are primarily, the staff are using these just so they're not direct breathing
Right.
on
right.
people. They're washable, they're wonderful.
That's for Los Angeles is what that's for.
Yeah. We
For
do.
your air quality.
We got, exactly. And, we do have some of the surgical ones for people with beards. They're not able to wear ones like these. And then we are holding back on the N95s just in case we need them, because those are the ones. And if we can get some, we've talked about that, if we're gonna kind of actively monitor things here. If we can make some donations, push some out into the community, whether it's the police, fire, or our, the ambulance guys don't have them either. We would go ahead and start doing that as well. So yeah, we have had better luck. I've got, among other things, in China, actually started a medical FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment company that has all that stuff. And it was done on the back of an envelope with the guy. The stupidest thing I ever did was twice he's offered stock options. I was like, nah, I'm happy to help as a friend. And it's going to go public next year, and he's going to be a bazillionaire.
Yeah.
I have the knowledge that I helped a friend out.
And you're still gonna be at the Carrington.
I will probably still be here.
Wait, I'm not gonna cry for you though.
I wouldn't cry.
No.
No. Save the tears for those who need them.
Would it be the same thing that, IBM feels about Bill Gates?
Oh, by the way, there was a thing that Bill Gates was on Facebook right now, his 10 points about this whole thing. And his whole thing is it's a spiritual encounter to have us learn lessons. And he lists 10 different things. It was profound. And I thought, God, he's got it. He's really got it. He understands what life is about. And it isn't about having a gazillion dollars.
No, well, he makes good use of his money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like Warren Buffett. I think, just in hindsight, and when we get it through this, and we walk through this, I think we're gonna list really amazing ways that it changed us.
Yeah.
As a society, I think, because I think we were just, we were a really selfish society who believed that we lived in the best land and nothing was ever gonna happen to us. Sure, we went through a lot of bad stuff, hurricanes, floods, whatever. But this is making you aware of your next door neighbor. This is making you aware of everybody that you meet within your community, and tapping into something inside of you, I think, that makes you want to do more. And makes you a better person.
Well, there's, local distilleries are now, we're working with them,
Making
trying to get the hand
hand
sanitizers.
Right.
Covell, or,
Uh-huh.
I think,
Owned by a woman.
yeah, they're gearing up. If you know her, we're in line. You can move us to the front of the line, that would be awesome.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
We will.
I heard they can only make them in whiskey bottle size though.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's okay.
That's
Yeah,
okay,
we,
because that's what they got, whiskey bottles.
AL and memory care in particular, we pretty much would go through one of those bottles a day, because we
Easily.
do it as a class, we do it, together, it's an activity itself. But yeah, I think a lot of the businesses as well, they're stepping up, and, amazed in Italy, they did a respirator out of a diving suit. And, already it's been sent via the internet over here, and we've got some of our people already working on those things as well. So, yeah. So,
Yeah. I have a lot of relatives up in northern Italy, and I've been keeping tabs on them, and, everybody's been good so far. But, they've had a lot of.
Basic problem was they were all in Rome. It was there, and they just didn't know it, but they saw like bits and pieces. They announced they were going to close down in a week. Everybody headed for the hills. Well, everybody, and they took it with them, and it just, so rather than just having it highly concentrated in Rome, just the technical.
Well, that's everybody leaving New York now,
Yeah,
too.
that's one thing.
Going to Florida.
And that's, I know, I'd love to hear Cuomo talk, but I would just love to hear say the words, hey guys, that's it. We're gonna blockade the George Washington Bridge. We're gonna take away the tunnel. But the longer they wait, because there's that theory as well that people have already run up to the Hamptons and stuff like that. So it's just, the more it pops up, and so it's kind of, as we said, sometimes at the local level, maybe it is the slow play, but at the macro level, yeah, just bring the hammer down, and we'll sort it out later.
Well, Italy went down one day, then they came back up the next, and they're the same again today. So they haven't turned the corner.
I did hear that Italy has, out of all the countries that are afflicted by this, Italy has the largest amount of the older population.
And it's up in northern Italy.
And they have the highest per capita consumption of cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And and so it's just that, it really is kind of it's an ideal nesting spot for the virus, unfortunately. Because I love Italy.
Well, me too.
All right, well, hey, we're, final thoughts. What advice would you give these young students if they wanted to come into this field? What things should they think about? What things would make them better at their jobs?
Dedication. That's number one. I don't think you're gonna make a lot of money.
No.
But dedication is probably the best thing.
I'd have to say dedication also. Dedication, but you gotta have that caring attitude. If they can't muster up that they can really care about somebody else, and it's been the me generation, so I think where it's gonna be hard to find a lot of young people that can put their cell phones down long enough to really focus on other people. I mean, including my grandkids, they're not selfish, they're not bad. It's just kind of oblivion in a way of what other people need. If you ask, you'll get it from them, but not offer.
They don't have a vision of what you need.
Right.
They don't anticipate.
Exactly.
They don't. And you gotta have a caregiving mentality.
The only thing I think of is that if it's gerontology, that is a career, I think to understand the wide range of people who are in this population. I have a bird's eye view of the people I see here in 3 different types of living. And then at my sister's nursing home, where there is memory care, and then there's high-skilled nursing, and then regular. And it is such a wide range of folks. So I'm seeing a multitude of populations, both the needs and issues, and it's a lot. You got a long ways to go to learn
Oh, yeah,
how much there is.
yeah, and that's from international perspective as well. I
Yeah.
think everybody's kind of realizing nobody really has it all figured out just yet.
We just evolve faster. We really do.
Yeah.
I love child development. I've been watching that baby show on Netflix, and it's wonderful. But they ought to do the same thing with senior folk, the wide range. Because we're all doing pretty well now. We're in independent living. We plan to be there as long as possible. But we all see the future. You know, one good fall, and you're in a nursing home or whatever. So it can change. And we've all seen those changes occur. Mary Ann probably more than most of us, watching her husband. It's an evolution.
To indeed.
So, anyway, that's my advice to talk.
Behind every deeply lined face, bent over a walker, walking slowly, is you. I have discovered for myself, because I'm one of the youngest people here, that there are extraordinary people behind the facade of age. So remember that and value it. Fight any impulse to be patronizing. To understand that rich lives have by and large been lived, and just really appreciate that. They'll take you a long way, I think.
I think question why you've gone into gerontology. Question it all the time. I mean, is it because you had something instilled in you through your family values? Were you raised in an environment where there was communal living and you were exposed to your grandparents, and maybe that's the reason? Or were you initially involved with somebody who you noticed depreciated in their mental acuity? All of these traits are valuable traits to have when you go into this. It's a real specialty, gerontology. I mean, it's not like, you know, there's a gazillion gerontologists running around, or a gazillion people that want to be involved in this. So always question yourself. Am I doing this the right way? Am I doing this? Was there a skill I need to develop? Let me observe this, or this is a knowledgeable person. Let me talk to them. And like Mary Jo says, however large our population is now in independent living, there's a story in every person. And they might not be great storytellers, but if you question them and you sit with them, they tell you what it is. And you should value anything like that.
It's a wide open field, and you can specialize in several areas. It's like memory care over there, you know, assistant. Then maybe you just want to work in the independent side. So it's a wide range of areas that you might be interested in that you want to pursue. So you have to think about just how far or how deep you really want to go. And it's almost like any position. You know, memory care, you've got to really go into the different phases of memory care. There are different people, it's affected in different ways. You know, Parkinson's get developed in that area. It's wide. So you've got to really think about the specialties in the area. And if that's something that you want to pursue. And if you want to be just a general practitioner and a little dab here and all of it, or do you want to specialize in certain areas? You've got to make that decision.
It's not going away.
Don't put us all in the same basket.
That's it.
Good
If
one.
you have, you know, oh, they all have gray hair, that is totally meaningless. Also, I'm gonna approach it from a practical point of view. If you go into this field and you're lucky enough to be a part of a facility from the ground up, there are so many things to consider in the design of a building. So many
That's
things.
a difference.
Like, for instance, the cupboard door, the cupboard shelves should roll out. So we don't have to get down, because we can't, on our hands and knees and get something from the back. And, I mean, that's just one thing. Also, the social space. Make sure, I think when this facility was built, they didn't anticipate us being so active.
They
So they
didn't anticipate you being so old.
No, so active. They
Old and
anticipated us
active.
being old, but not active. What I mean
Maybe
is,
the other way
they
around.
didn't anticipate us all wanting to gather here and do games, or to gather here and do this, and to gather here as groups. So we're finding out, now that we're using both dining rooms, we don't have the space that we need for a variety of things, because it was anticipated we'd live in our apartments, come down, go eat, go back up, and maybe have a few little card games in the living rooms or whatever, but not the way we do it here. It's totally different.
Maybe the architect thought independent living, these are seniors, granted, we're seniors, but because we were independent, we were all going to be out and not just in the facility.
Which,
Who knows, and that might be a very generous assumption, but
Yeah.
whatever.
I
Yeah.
We
think
need
it,
more gathering places.
yes, I think it, I just think they just never anticipated.
You need larger
us.
common spaces.
Yes,
You know,
large
like-
common spaces, right, and they're just, I mean, when I first moved here, I thought, my God, you know, do they not know there are old people living here? I don't care if I'm independent or not. This is what I need, this is what I need, this is what I need. And again, I thought, well, there must not have been a woman who was part of
That's
the
what I
design.
thought. There was no woman.
There was
wasn't.
no woman
wasn't.
who was a part of the design. So I'm just saying, you know, if you're lucky enough to be in on the ground floor of design,
Okay,
there are so many things to
it's
add.
almost 3 hours, are we almost done?
I mean, you know.
We're done. So you can leave it.
I know, I can leave.
Yeah.
But you know, some of the first people, when we used to have to pull our water out of the dryer and dump.
Yeah. I did
That was
that.
horrible.
That was,
And then you think about little people like this.
oh, well, that's
They
true.
couldn't even reach up and get it.
Well, little people now can't, I don't know how they get into the top washer, dryer,
They
whatever
don't.
it is.
They don't.
And it's not safe for
They
them to
send their
stand under
laundry out.
the stool.
They sent it out.
Yeah.
Maybe that's next week.
Yeah.
Guys, I gotta say goodbye to the students,
Okay.
but again, before, I know some of you do have things to do and to go to. Thank you so much. We appreciate it on behalf of all the students. This was exactly
Thank you
what we
for
were hoping.
listening.
Thank you for
Good.
having
Thank
us.
you.
I hope we didn't put you to sleep.
I hope we didn't shock you. Well, I hope we didn't shock you.
I hope they don't change their mind.
May you all have an active, independent liver in your family.
All right, guys, we've got check the blackboard for the assignment, and,
Oh, not us.
call if there's any questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, get you a bottle of water.
You need